Good morning once again. My name is Rod Van Blake. I'm from Ancient Illumination series as well as the Yombani Chronicles. And this is,
Jordan Pennell Jackson. Hey, everybody.
and today we are once again talking about world building, but we're going to switch it up after some actual world building we did together, changing this novel into a comic book, at least taking the beginning of that story and having actually implemented instead of just talking about theory of taking this world that I created, literary, putting it into illustration, another format for readers to enjoy. The slideshow. And this is the, let me make that bigger. This right here. World development in fantasy and sci-fi and storytelling. Basically, world building is creating the environments in which your characters will have to navigate. It's basically creating the world that they live in, the types of beings around them they experience, the environments they experience, and it's a huge part of storytelling in addition to character development. First, we have to decide what we're creating, which is it, fantasy or science. Will this world be run by magic means or based on science, or maybe a hybrid of the two, similar to Star Wars and many other things today that are not all, they're not all fantasy, is kind of a conglomeration of both things. I think adds to the enjoyment. You can catch a larger audience if they're interested in kind of both.
Yeah, if you double dip in science.
If you double dip, I think you can kind of catch them both.
Yeah.
So it's on genetic modification. I hope so. World building. A biome is a biogeographical unit consisting of biological community that has formed in response to a physical environment in which they are. These can be broken down into 5 basic categories: aquatic, water-based, grassland, forest, desert, and tundra. These areas will describe the individual environments for this. Basically informs the readers, the viewer, why people or beings are reacting and living the way they are. You could be in a moderate climate where they can kind of choose what they wear, but if it's more extreme.
Just because setting influences what the character may look like, and how they dress, how they move around the world. Yeah, well,
How it changes that kind of creation. I have to think in my mind about that. Because the hands have to execute what the outcome is.
I'll go to the internet and just like Google search like different biomes, locations, and then how people dress in that environment to get more science fiction.
My name illustration that Jordan did for me. These are the Pontu tribesmen. Uh, while doing it, um, in certain areas, it may be a religious or more spiritual means that influence them influences the people to act the way they do. Here, it's kind of out of necessity. These people found a place, found an environment that was right for the taking. If they, played their cards right, they could form an economic system based off the bovine animals they can hunt, they could sell food,
They have everything.
feed themselves, and it becomes kind of a little industry, if you will, for them. At the same time, uh, they have to be more at one, I think, the environment, animals within that environment, in order to have this kind of control. You see others, Kopech, I wanted other.
Oh, the blade, the sword.
Yeah, the sword, cultural influences that I wanted to be depicted in my fantasy world. I wanted to be similar enough so that people could still relate to it, but I wanted to be kind of unique enough that we pull from cultures that aren't necessarily featured all the time in high fantasy, epic fantasy, whatever you want to call the genre and subgenre within fantasy realm.
Yeah, like when we were working on this image, it was really cool that we were able to kind of use like specific locations in Africa. So like,
Yeah,
as a reference for that is the mountain.
The mountain in the background.
And then like I would look at different ethnic groups,
Yeah.
tribes in like sub-Saharan countries.
A lot of the nomenclature in my books are African in origin. I wanted that. Kilimanjaro, you mentioned the three dragons, the elder dragons in my story. So, Mowenzi and Shira are the names of the highest peaks in Kilimanjaro. So I wanted them all to have. So hopefully, if people looked up the names, it would inadvertently have them researching something in Africa and see where I got the names from, where I got the languages from, what they actually mean. It's all part of world building and kind of fleshing out what we're doing. World building can be tedious. If you spend too much time world building, you can lose readers in mundane details, but you don't do enough. They won't connect with the characters. You want them to care. You want them to connect. We're going to take that down now. And now we're going to go to the portion where George's going to show us the art as we actually, instead of just theorizing on world building, we can actually look at some of the actual world building we did specifically for these characters and the. So here we're getting the references for the Orisha within your money.
And so when I was designing these, I really wanted to reference like West African, like Nigerian garbs. So I was kind of working from those and just using like Aleke beads, which are important in Ifa religion and various African religions that have permeated the African diaspora. So there was a huge emphasis on just like the adornment of beads. And then I wanted to use gold just because in this specific image, this Orisha Olorun is kind of like the sort of
the sky god and the creator. Shango, which some should be familiar with, is the god of thunder. And also fire as well. Yeah.
And so he's and this was a cameo of Rod, everyone. So now you know cat's out the bag. We use Rod as a reference for Shango, but Shango is most definitely known for having kind of this like double axe. So we ultimately wanted in a ram. That's another animal that's kind of venerated, associated with him. So we wanted to incorporate those designs into his overall final design. I think we have a couple of eventually made a decision. We made a final decision, I think, on did we choose number 3?
I think we did
Yeah.
for the final.
Yes, we went with
I think we might have went with like a mix of the two, where I like the bottom that you had of one side, maybe the battle axe medallion from another, or something like that.
Yeah. So I always want to kind of reference, and I try to. My goal is to bring in some level of authenticity just to reflect, stay consistent and reflect culture. And so that was Shango, and then we have another Orisha who's Oya, and she controls wind.
When hurricanes and chants.
And this one's really fun because she had this kind of like object that was kind of like a whip, it's kind of flowy, kind of whip type object, and this horn. So I made sure when designing her to keep these things kind of consistent. I'd love to use the machete if there's a future iteration of her. Yeah, and then we have ship designs. But I want to show you kind of the image of Oya. So this is what we did with Oya, just to kind of keep some of the artifacts from like her original design, with like this kind of fan-like earrings, and just thinking about this armor that actually has her the whip. That kind of whip object is actually kind of engraved on her armor, and then she has like kind of these like wind symbols of like tattoos or markings, body markings on her, and then she has like a horn integrated into like kind of her necklace piece, just to do a callback to these specific items.
Winds, lightning, and violent storms.
And this was also the cover, so we got to feature all of the these first 3 Orishas, Olarum, Shango, and Oya, as they are standing above Ishmael, as he is in this kind of like pain and sadness. So he's coming to terms with his newfound power.
Keep in mind through this process that I have this story in one format, and then I have to pass it off to him, and basically he has to translate Olympus. I wanted something different. I wanted basically a city ship that acts as the sun. The bottom thruster of this great city ship is basically the sun of Yambani, the planet. So instead we have an actual like satellite that hovers. Actually, the planet hovers around it the way they designed it. The African mask touch, and the shape is basically like an elongated oval shaped city that is actually a. So it is their, for lack of a better analogy, it's their heaven, but it's their realm where the gods reside, and look down below at the planet where the desmans that they've created live out their lives. So they're watching over the planet. And as with most things, a lot of magical things are used often to you just don't understand. With the sun and the moon, however many stories there are about the sun and moon. In the past, we've always had some mystical lore that explains what those things are. So this was a cool thing that we came up with that I was able to. Funny, obviously, as I'm the writer, I don't have anything visual to represent this. I just describe something to him, and then it's on him to execute it.
Did we initially talk about it being like a traditional kind of like boat?
We did, but I wanted to stay away from the gods of Egypt.
Yeah, that's
comparison with Ra and the sun ship that was there. I want it to be at a place. It's kind of multiple usages. This is actually a living, breathing city that also happens insanely huge when you think about perspective spaceship where they live, and it's this huge total. Yeah, there's one of
Yeah,
the.
to give you an example of scale, everyone, that's Oleron, and that's how far that's like him standing on kind of the deck of the ship.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how large the city would be, this kind of city ship would be.
And imagine how big that has to be when you see the bottom. If that looks like, from our vantage point on the planet side, that looks like the sun, how large that has to be. This is all part of, like, these details may not mean much, but I think it adds to the depth of the story, and a really cool visual. Probably have to make some more images of this and use it somehow.
This one was fun. I kind of, when I illustrated it with the three faces, call back to, they had like this transformer or this being, this
Kind of like a different version of like the Living Tribunal.
yes.
Okay.
So I kind of pulled from that. And initially, we actually can show
Yeah, these are
the
the
journey.
iterations that didn't make it.
That's so initially, when we talk about the spaceship, I was like, imagine like solar sails, and that was like my point of reference. And then it was a particular ship design from like Star Wars.
Oh, with Count Dooku.
Yes. How it starts.
The design and being like, no.
We can't. And then ultimately, we got to this point of like the mini faces. This kind of like jar, like cool kind of exploration. I'm sure.
I think it would be interesting and very tedious if somehow we could do like an open face cross section of that and see how the city. I mean, it would be a really big job because the amount of detail you have to show and see how the cross section of the ship would work, because it does in fact function like a living, breathing city. Like there's a metropolis in this thing. Uh, that'd be cool. That was stronger.
Yeah. So these are also just some in design. So like I said, we took the kind of necklace, um, the kind of necklace piece on the first design, brought it into the third, just to make it all come together. And we also tend to, like, when I'm designing, like when I'm trying to come like clothing for people in the world, I like to reference like real patterns, to kind of get my brain moving and designing. So like these are like different textures I was looking at while coming up with designs for characters and people. And then I would also ask Rod like who are references. So we like to throw out a celebrity or anybody.
Yeah.
To
Like,
just
who
get
does
the
this character look like? Or basically, you were trying to approach somebody for fight, the ideal actor or actress, if you want. And so, Delroy Lindo, I thought of immediately when I was thinking of Otemu. Otemu is the head villager in this fishing. One of our main characters is born. It's the fishing village. So you can see all the accoutrement, the hat, the necklace. It's kind of a symbol of his status as the main chieftain. Actually, it's the fangs of some other uh, waterbound creature that he's got as the spirit. All of this stuff's supposed to be like natural, taken from the land and the water, and integrated into his these people fight in battle, it's basically a huge impromptu grave site. Their tombstones are basically where they're stored. Their swords have fallen in the field. And that shard is from Ishmael's father's particular sword that was given to him by his mother. So it was a small talisman, kind of a well-wished boost of confidence type of talisman that the mother gave to Ishmael. But it's still a mystery where his father is, or if his father's even still alive. And that's part of it. They know that we have this shard. That was the only thing that someone could actually pick up and carry back. The actual blade is somewhere out there. We don't know where he is. So it's kind of a clue I wanted to leave out there. This Ishmael, and that's
This
him.
is the first one. This was the final image I think we came up with, like wielding light. So this one was pretty fun, just drawing like the glowing effects on him, just making him look like he's a force to be reckoned with. So this is cool. And he's at this age. How old is he in this?
I think he's got probably like 10, maybe 11.
Strong 10.
By the time we have him meet who would become his mentor later on, he's got to be like 11 or at this point for at least 5-6 years. I mean, doing his thing.
And then we also had designed a midwife
Yeah,
who's very integral to the first book.
yeah. She's the midwife. She's also kind of one of the village's shaman, spiritual leaders, and one of the reasons why they're advised to have Ishmael leave once they believe that he's kind of a bad omen because of the circumstances under which he was born and the things that happened within the village the night of his birth kind of becomes some drama for the village of Tanji, and she's the one that kind of sends him off. An impactful event happens in the book, and she sends him off to kind of begin his part of his hero's journey. Send him off, one of the catalysts. She's an integral character. She's a side character though, but so because again, our back and forth, she may end up have a more fleshed out story down the line, mainly because of the conversations we've had about it.
And when designing the significance of light and in traditional African cultures and religions, just how it's a symbol of purity, and because she is doing birth work, so I kind of wanted to play off of the white, the use of cowrie shells, and using like blues because they are from a fishing village. So my goal is to, like, if you notice, like all the other, like Otemu's design, he uses a lot of greens and blues, but keeping kind of consistent in the sense of like the colors reflecting their environment. And it was funny because I did these 3 designs for Rod, but he liked both of them. So he's like, let's just keep them both and use them for different iterations of her, because we see the midwife in different forms throughout the first book. So I think we went with the second, this middle option right here for when we see her first. So we went with the middle option first when we introduce her, and then when we see her later in the book, she looks like the image, the right image, the right illustration. So yeah, this is always a process of like fun process of like, all right, which design works, what doesn't work, and so all right, we took care of we knocked out 2 birds in one stone.
The more details, I think, the better. I've been on out of this. It's a video game, and you have a character getting to explore. Certain devs don't put in the work, and it's all blank face. Well, at least we have an NPC that will have many iterations as you follow along. We'll have details. We've seen how we've built out the village, the individual homes, have a actual layout and functionality to them. if you were to go into each house, there would be things that you could pick out, Easter eggs you could call out within it, and I think it adds to the immersion for the gamer and for the formats we have for the reader and for the person either choosing to read the book and get the comic, or if you do both, you can read the literary novel and then you go see it actually executed in the visual format and comic book to compare. And then I think that's kind of the fun thing when you say, okay, this is how I saw it in my mind when I was reading the word. The people, the village, and people inhabiting. So
The artist to like even me, like, because we never see Ishmael's father. I wanted to find ways to like sneak him in the background. So if like you read the book and you go to one of the panels, there is going to be like an illustration of his father on the wall. So like he's almost like a piece, like a painting done of his father, and you kind of get close to him. And I wanted you to get the idea, like you really love his father, and this is his father, but also you get the sense of his father was some type of boy. If you look at it, you find it. And these were also some like different panels or different pages, like the original artwork. And like in this panel, on this page, Michelle's being bullied by these other kids for being
different, and he's kind of off to himself and tries to make friends, but they don't embrace him. So they decide to be mean to him and find out pretty quickly that's not necessarily a good idea. So that's him. One of the things he kind of has to deal with. Yeah, they mess around and find out that he's not to be played with. But it's part of the reason why the village is also afraid of him, and they want to kind of get rid of him. This kind of fuels that hateful narrative. Never mind the fact that he's being bullied and egged on by the kids themselves. Like, had y'all left him alone, that wouldn't have happened. But,
and there was something like when we talk about him being ostracized and being different. What I also intentionally did was like I made his clothing, like I gave him kind of this goldish yellow accent color because to kind of call back to the Orishas and the fact that he kind of is blessed by their power, so he has a little bit of yellow or gold on him. In contrast to other people in the village, they wear a lot of purple, like wear a lot of blues, greens, purples, to kind of because that's culturally kind of what they would normally wear.
Keep in mind too that the reader's informed, but I like the idea of the reader having information that characters don't. So Ishmael has no idea how or why he's gotten his powers. It's just how it's always been. He has no clue. And this is a cool panel because it's an iteration, gradual development of him where he starts out with hair. He's got hair.
He had hair, everybody.
As he's growing up, and he's a happy little guy, and the skin, see how small the skin condition is in the middle panel there, and then as he grows up, the hair goes away, and the skin pigmentation variation grows across his face to be more prominent. And he ends up, you see in the bottom panel, kind of being off to himself in a real contemplative, almost meditative state because he's a sad little guy. He's sitting by the edge of the river, off to himself in his thoughts, trying to have some peace and ain't gonna get it because the other kids are gonna mess up his vibe.
Because he's different. Yeah. And there was something else that as I was designing Ishmael is that like in this top set of panels, because he has these powers like the little eyeball pigmentation and the lightning bolt across his face.
Okay.
So that was why that design was that way. It's very intentional. It's like how can we make this kind of skin condition kind of also kind of look and reflect like his powers in a way.
And see how he used the pattern of the dress in the middle panel. That's a small detail, but you see the hem of her dress.
And then she has like a waistband and like the cloth that goes around her waist. You can see with like you're always going to see that pattern.
Yeah,
I think towards the end of the book, it ends up becoming a pattern she may wear on her head. So yeah, this last panel was pretty fun. Just being able to kind of like flush out the world a little bit more and kind of like really capture the essence of like this is a fishing village, so you'll have like people in boats
you
and
may
you'll
have
have
to.
capturing some fishes.
He's probably going to get mad at me. I'm looking at this panel now, thinking we may have to judge that one up and make that a print right
Okay.
there.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Everyone, you're finding this out live. I'm finding this out with you. And then, as earlier we mentioned, the dragons in the story as well. And so this was one of the
The black elder dragon, Kibo red dragon, and then throughout his evolving into an elder dragon who became black and his power. They elder conduits that are ensconced in their layers, and it harnesses the magic of the world to basically feed them. They just have to be in close proximity, sleep around their crystal, and it feeds them, and they no longer have to go out in the world and hunt for food. They are sustained magically. So it's kind of an issue at the beginning of the book when Motu, this wayward magus or wizard, however you want to classify him, ends up corrupting magic in the world, and that disturbs their sleep. So all these images have stories that I had to come up with within the world, and these are the executions. Kibo is one of the elder dragons. Have the elder dragons that I wish to have illustrated, and obviously because I want the same style and quality, he's going to do those two as well for Shira and Valenti. I believe it's the silver and the gold elder dragons. They were also a different colored dragon when they were initially created, and then they evolved into this new color, new classification, new powers as they become exponentially more powerful than their initial iterations. So this is cool. And I think he's a cool character. Some people, there's some keyboard fans out there.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
We got fans. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. And this one was fun. Just being able to. This was actually my first time drawing. And I was like, I'll accept the challenge. And so a lot of what I did was that I treated this like a traditional kind of painting, a digital painting. But I would get to a point where I would introduce like different textures. So a lot of the scales and things are textures that I work with, and I'll just go and use different colors and different blending modes to kind of make it feel more dimensional, because it could just be a flat texture, but I also tend to transform it and wrap it around the form of an object. I'll use different textures like to get the kind of like texture of like the wings, so it doesn't feel super flat. Using different lighting.
Love the lighting on this with the crystal. It's kind of a visual. I wanted it to look. It's kind of an odd request. Like, I want you to draw something and make it look like it glows. Kind of like the lighting on that is crazy.
I'm glad you like it.
Illustration. We can get two more of those, just different. And the thing is, we're going to switch it up. They have one dragon, the golden dragon, has an underwater layer. So the cave is going to be underwater within, in my opinion, because I have no artistic talent in my hands to actually execute this. But I think it's a tough ask. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're adding another layer of elements over top of just the crystal, the dragon, the scales, the texture. Now we're going to put it in water. And how?
It's not a problem. It's not a problem.
I understand that, but it's like, how do you make like that? That to me is a tough ask. It's going to be really cool. And then the third one will be in a colder climate, so a mountain layer again, but this one is going to be in like a tundra, real wintry, snowy, icy. Yeah. And that I believe is the silver dragon, who used to be a blue dragon, and then kind of evolved further into her elder dragon status. That was it, yeah. So yeah, these I just wanted to switch it up today. These are examples of talking about it in helps him better execute the planet home. So it's kind of a back flash out. With different people here having questions back and forth hall. I believe we have another panel coming, a workshop coming up in a few minutes. Great day again, Baltimore, Baltimore Artway Alliance. We're doing it.